Hi guys, welcome back to my channel Lush Gardener. So a lot of you guys had request about how to save a succulent that has stem rot or root rot. I'm sure a lot of you might have experienced this, especially after the monsoon season, or probably you might have overwatered the succulent. When there is a lot of moisture in the soil, the succulent can either have root rot or it can have stem rot. Now these are the initial stage. If you ignore these two signs, then the next process is the crown rot. Now once you have crown rot, you cannot save your succulent, it's completely gone. So how to treat a succulent that has stem rot or a root rot? Now for that, I'm going to take this Graptovaria titubans as an example. Now I thankfully do not have any stem rot on any of my succulents. So for this example, I will be taking a healthy one. But not to worry, I am going to explain how to cut it and what are the symptoms that you are going to see that indicates that there is a stem rot or a root rot. Let's start with stem rot. Now guys, whenever you tend to see a succulent, the stem is going to be light brown in color, or probably some of them might have a little bit light brown colored a stem. Now, when you tend to touch the stem, it's usually stiff. I wouldn't say that it's rock hard, it's usually stiff. But it's not going to be mushy, it's not going to be very soft, and there is not going to be any discoloration on the stem. Apart from that, the healthy stem, you will find a lot of leaves on that, but if the stem is starting to rot, the leaves on that part of the stem will start to fall automatically. That indicates that there is a case of stem rot. So the indications are, you will see a discoloration. Usually it's going to be a dark color on the stem. The leaves on that part will start to fall off. You will also find dark edges on the leaves as well. Apart from that, when you tend to press, you will feel that there is water coming out and the stem is very mushy, it's very soft. That indicates that you are dealing with stem rot. So before we go on to the stem rot, let me finish up with the root rot as well, because root rot is going to be much easy to understand and to fix it. So let's start with root rot first. Now, how do you identify that there is a root rot? Of course, the roots are going to be beneath the soil. So the signs will be showing up on the leaves. The leaves are going to be wrinkled. There will be leaves that will be falling. Whenever you tend to water, the leaves will not open up. They will always show wrinkles on the leaves. So that is when you take out the succulent from the soil, and you will notice that if the succulent roots are healthy, they are going to be brown to light brown in color, and there is going to be a lot of growth on the ends of the roots. Like you'll find a lot of white roots, which indicates that the roots are still healthy. But when you tend to notice that the entire root ball is turned dark in color, it's almost black in color, it is a little soft, you do not see a lot of new growth, or at the ends of each of the root, you do not see new growth, that indicates that either the roots are completely dried out or they are rotting. A lot of times you might also happen to get a little bit of foul smell from the root, that indicates that the roots are rotting. So what do you do in this case is, it's plain and simple. You just take a scissor and cut off right above the root system like this. So you're going to give it a cut. After cutting, you have to check the stem if there is any discoloration or not. If there is discoloration, you'll have to keep cutting until you do not see any discoloration. You will be able to see in the next part of the video when I'm doing the stem cutting. So with this process, you will be able to eliminate the older roots, and then you have to let it air root. Once you start noticing the new roots, then you go ahead and put it into the soil. Now coming to the stem rot, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark it with this black marker. So you will be able to see, let's say that this marking is where the rot has started. Now, as I've said this, the earlier the much better, because right now this would be the initial stage of rot. But if you're not going to take care of it, if you're going to ignore it, the rot will reach upwards and it's going to end up to the crown area, which will definitely lead to crown rot. So let's say that you were vigilant enough and you noticed the rot. Now this is just an example. Probably the line can be lower or the line can be higher depending upon when you happen to notice the stem rot. Now let's say that you have located the stem rot. Anything below this, you will feel that it's very mushy and soft. And although the leaves have fallen off, the next thing you'll have to do is take a sterile knife, scissor, blade, anything, and you will have to cut it exactly above the rot area. Let's say over here, this is the line where the rot has started. So probably you can give like couple of centimeters above the rot, and then just cut it off. After this is the most important thing, that is you have to check the cut area. Now if it's a fresh area, if the rot has not reached to this portion, you will see it's going to be very fresh. There is going to be a good amount of juice, and it's not going to be dry, or it's not going to be darker in color. It's going to be fresh, it's going to be green in color. This indicates that you have done a very good cutting. But let's say in case if you happen to see that it's still very dark inside, you will have to keep cutting it until and unless you see a fresh part like this. Now a lot of times you might end up cutting in a lot of the stem, but that is the only option, because if you're going to leave the black part on the stem area, it will continue to spread further. Now after this, it's a very easy process. Once you have eliminated the dark spot on the stem, all you have to do is keep it in a dry spot. We have to let it callus. If the water or moisture comes in contact before it is getting callus, there is a high chance that it might get rotted. So you have to be extremely careful. If you want, you can add some dry cinnamon powder on the cut area for it to heal faster. If you do not have cinnamon powder, it's absolutely okay. All you have to do is just leave it on a dry surface and let it air root. A lot of people have also asked me, can we put it into the soil after the cut has been healed? Yes, you can absolutely put it into the soil, but you have to make sure that you do not water it unless there are roots, because if there are no roots, the succulent cannot absorb that water. So if you're going to ask my advice, what I tend to do, as you all know, I let it sit on a dry surface, I let it heal, and then I wait for the aerial roots to appear or the air roots to appear. Once they appear, I go ahead and put it into the dry soil. If the succulent is well hydrated, I wait for at least a week or so, and then I go ahead and water the soil. If the succulent is extremely dehydrated, then probably after 5 days, I will go ahead and water it. And throughout this process, when you cut and when you keep it to heal, ensure that it is kept in indirect bright light. Do not expose it to direct sunlight, otherwise the succulent will get dehydrated at a much faster rate. Ensure that you're keeping it in indirect bright light with a good amount of air circulation so that the wound can heal faster. So guys, that's all about it. I hope that this video was helpful to you. If it was, please hit the like button. If you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing to it. Until then, take care, stay safe, and keep propagating.